Hello everybody, my name is Amul Patel, I'm in Los Angeles. You're watching the Smoking Hot Coffee Show, where we cover internet startups, marketing, design, monetization. I'm joined with...
Hey Amul, I'm Jeff Pelton, I'm down here in San Diego.
And today we got a great interview with a couple of founders of Zillionears.com. So Jeff, this is extra special. Tell us why.
Well, we happened to bump into these guys, and they told us that they were willing to share their story with us about how it didn't work out, how they decided to kind of shut the doors for the company. And actually they didn't completely close their doors. You can still get to their .com, Zillionears.com. That's like EARS.com.
So these guys are actually claiming they've given up on their startup. They are actually in a dead pool. And so this is a perfect case study on what went wrong. Why do they continue to build a product without any customers? Who do they listen to early on? And it isn't just one guy, it's a couple of guys. So it's like, okay, one guy would have realized, well, fuck, this isn't working anymore. And shockingly enough, this happens all the time. In fact, 8 out of 10 startups fail. And so if that failure rate is so high, why'd you even why would anybody even go for the gold? So hopefully we can really learn from these guys and find out what went wrong. And I try to ask them questions specifically about what could they do to prevent this happening again to them or to anybody else. And so they're going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think we learn a lot from them, all the way from the development of the product and their background as non-developers, and sort of trying to drum up customers, and sort of what went wrong and where they would do things differently. And so it's really educational for us founders and entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. And of course, they're working in their initial vertical was the music space, and the music industry and the music space is littered with just dead bodies. I mean, it's dead bodies everywhere. But there's a couple of major hits, but there's a lot of dead bodies there in the music space.
Yeah, it's really tough, and I think it's really neat to kind of go after our musicians, like budding artists, like people trying to get started. We know like MySpace and stuff are kind of really popular with that audience, is really popular online, cutting edge, younger crowd. It's a fun audience, I think, to engage with.
And on a side note, I know Jeff was working on sort of a funky product for catering to musicians, so hopefully this was a little bit real eye-opening for you, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, I don't think we even got into it at the end, but we might double back on that at some point. But I have a sweet soft spot for listening to music online while I'm programming all day. So I've been using these things forever, like Pandora since it started, and other things like the 61 and music discovery and kind of engaging web interfaces for music listening. So I'm keeping my mind trying to learn from this and hopefully sharpen what I know and maybe do something interesting with it in the future.
Okay, so without further ado, let's go. We've got Jordan here and his partner Dan. And so go ahead, Jordan, give us a brief overview. What is your startup? What was it about, and how long were you guys around, and why you decided to stop? Give us the play-by-play.
Yeah, well, we kind of started out in college. We were in college in Santa Barbara, and we were working towards trying to help musicians in the music industry either reach more fans or become more successful overall. Okay. And we went through a lot of experiments, and we ended up building a flash sale site. Okay. Where musicians are able to create their own sale platform, and every person that came into the sale, every fan that participated in the sale, the price would decrease incrementally. And the idea behind this was to entice their fans monetarily to share with all their friends. Oh, so if I bought a sale, if I got into the sale at $5, the more people that get into the sale, the less the price becomes. So in 2 weeks, the price could be down to $1. Okay. And it's not until the end of the sale that all the credit cards are captured. So it's kind of got the Kickstarter model where we do all the authorizations at the beginning, and then at the end we do all the capturing.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of the basics of it.
Okay. It's a unique format. I like that. What would the price usually start at? $5 or maybe $10?
We kind of emphasized doing $5 to $1. Okay. And then they were able to customize for every each fan that came into it. It could drop 1 penny, it could drop 20 cents, it could drop $1, whatever they wanted to do. It was totally customizable.
Oh, interesting.
Gotcha.
Yeah, usually something like just retail to a dollar, or we were working out a deal where an artist could do a completely like promotional sale where it went all the way down to free. But yeah, we're still working out details on that.
Gotcha. Okay, so did you get the software built? Did you get any customers? Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about the software, and then Dan can go into our mass customer database.
Okay.
Yeah, we spent nearly a year building the software. Like in my post, I wrote we did a little bit of research. We did a little customer validation where we asked a few artists, what do you think of this? Is it going to be successful? Would you use it? Right. And unanimously, we basically got a go ahead. Yes, we'd use it. But they weren't putting their money where their mouth was. It was just yeah, we'd use it. So we were like, cool. So we spent a year building it. And we went through iteration after iteration, really not testing our audience, but just kind of testing our own assumptions of what we thought was going to be successful.
Right.
And after a year, we put it out there and had one beta tester. We had one artist locally here in Northern California use it.
Okay. And
the software just totally effed up. And Amazon shut us down. And then we spent another 2-3 months doing a whole software redo, essentially, of the back end to try to get all the financial flow up to par for Amazon.
Gotcha.
So I'd say over a year, maybe a year and a quarter on development before we actually got it to a point where it is now.
Okay. All right. Well, Dan, talk to us about the biz part, the business.
Yeah. So I want to jump into kind of about the customer validation thing, and why we kind of just reached out to a handful of customers at the beginning to kind of get validation.
Okay.
The reason was the number was so small was because we were working with an advisor who was in the music industry and had been in the music industry for years. Okay. So we were kind of taking his advice as our customers' feedback.
Right.
Kind of.
Gotcha.
So we were kind of doing that all along. We would, when you say we'd build a feature or kind of show our progress on the site, we'd go to him rather than go to our customers.
Gotcha. So you really trusted this guy?
Yeah, and I still do. I mean, I don't. It's nothing against him in any way. I love the guy. I'd work with him in the future, but unfortunately, he just wasn't our customer. Right. I mean, he had good insight into our customers, but at the end of the day, you got to talk to your customers, not the domain expert.
All right, so let me get this straight.
The people paying the money.
Right, exactly.
So let me get this straight here, Dan. So you're saying you would have gotten a lot more bands in earlier on, maybe 6 months in, type of thing. Is that would have been better?
No. I mean, we weren't ready. I mean, software-wise, we weren't ready 6 months in. But would we have in the future? I would have been talking to him, before we even started building, and would have had a list 6 months in to say, hey guys, we have a few months left, and you guys are ready to rock, kind of thing. But.
Yeah. So how much of the development, it sounds like, was the difficulty around the finance, like integrating with financial systems, and what were the pain points in that year and a quarter of development?
Talking about that?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first off, so we had one developer who came in. I wasn't a developer when I started. Me and Dan were both business development. In no way were we technical. So we brought in a developer who was down, and he was eager to get going, and it was taking a lot longer than expected. We were doing way more iterations than we wanted to, so he kind of slowly backed out. He did a fantastic job with everything, and he ended up teaching me how to program, and so I was able to kind of get going there.
Wow.
And so I guess a huge pain point was the fact that I never programmed before. For sure, that was like number one.
Okay.
If I was a programmer, I would have built it in 2-3 months, but it took me a whole year because I had to learn as well. But then when we actually got going, one of the major problems was we were storing money for the bands. So if a fan came in and bought music from the artist, and we were the middleman platform, we were taking all the money and putting it into our bank account with the idea and the intention of writing a check out to the artist afterwards.
Okay.
So that is 100% forbidden from Amazon. You're not allowed to do that. I'm not sure about other payment processors. I never really looked into it with PayPal or any of them. So that was like a huge slap in the face. And what we had to do is we ended up using we still used Amazon, but we had to use their recipient tokens. So essentially, it's exactly what Kickstarter uses. When somebody comes in and buys from our platform, the money goes automatically to the band. So the band already has to have a business account with Amazon and has to be linking up with our software. And then we get a cut out of that automatically. So Amazon handles all the fund transfers.
Right.
So that was huge for me. I mean, obviously, it didn't make a difference with our business model as far as getting customers or anything. Right. But the development, without that, we would have known maybe 6 months earlier that it was going to fail, and maybe we wouldn't be talking today. Who knows?
Well, let me ask you this, guys. So let's get into the business model. Why did this thing fail? What was the main issue? Was it too hard for the artists? Were they just not making any money? Was it a pain in the ass? What's the problem?
I mean, I can talk. Dan can talk. I guess I'll start real quick. We at the end of the day, we found out that it was too expensive to educate our customers, and it's kind of a simple model for us to understand, a simple idea as far as the decrement structure. The more people that buy an album, the less the price becomes. But it takes 10 seconds to explain, and I don't think the customers have 2 seconds to listen. So it was too expensive. We were totally bootstrapped, self-funded, 100%, and we didn't have the money to kind of spend on the marketing that was going to be necessary.
Okay.
I mean, that's one aspect of it. Okay. There's a ton of aspects that really inhibited our success. Dan, if you want to talk about
what's just
the education, I think, was a part of it, but I think the bigger reason for failure was kind of our value add just wasn't, there's tons of ways to get our value add. Like, it wasn't a problem. Our value add was, so we're going to get you more fans. Well, I mean, release an awesome music video, build a following on Twitter. Like, there's millions of ways to get more fans.
Okay.
And then the other side was we were also a direct-to-fan platform. So we gave the artists email address, names, and zip codes, and all the data on their fans who purchased. And that, again, is a solid thing for artists, but they can get that by other means as well. They can use, there's a lot of other platforms that offer similar things. So, yeah.
Gotcha. So, in essence, they have to take this to their fans anyway. So, maybe if you guys were a directory that was driving them sales, or somehow bringing them sales, it would have been different.
Yeah, we weren't actually a marketing plan for them. We were a tool to assist them in marketing and hopefully add excitement.
So maybe you guys were a little bit too early almost, right? Like, they were still kind of playing with social and, figuring it out at the time.
I think. Well, I mean, I think like the core term we use is social commerce. And that term's being thrown around everywhere. Everyone's got a different take on what social commerce is. Is social commerce selling a widget, putting a link on your Facebook? You're socializing the commerce. We kind of saw it as we're actually socializing commerce. Like, we're literally engaging the fan and making the commerce process social by, the more people that you bring into it, the less price becomes. Maybe we were too early. Maybe our execution was wrong. I hope somebody takes it, or I hope maybe we'll take it into a different vertical at some point. I think it definitely could work. It is interesting.
Well, let me ask you this. So why walk away? Why not take it to another vertical? Obviously, you guys need to pay your rent and your car payments and all that. Like, so what's going on? What are you guys doing now, and why not continue in a small fashion? Tell us more about that.
Go ahead, Dan.
So I think there are a lot of assumptions that we kind of maybe disproved or couldn't find value in, with our customers. So that's kind of why we wouldn't continue with this project, specifically in this vertical. And then exploring in other verticals, I think some of those assumptions that we kind of disproved kind of fit the same into those verticals. To be more specific, as a fan, if I'm buying music, am I really that incentivized to share with my friends if at most I'm going to save like $3, $2?
Yeah.
And for me personally, the answer was no. So kind of disproving that a little bit,
Okay.
discouraged us from continuing on that.
Okay.
And then to answer your question about what we're doing now, I'm just looking to join another startup in San Francisco. Kind of taking my time, kind of exploring, just taking a lot of meetings with people, doing a lot of Google Hangouts, and just attending various events. I was just at a startup weekend event, visiting a buddy last weekend, and yeah.
Well, so one vertical that's really big and's got a lot of money in is the wedding vertical. And so I could see something like this working for maybe some newlyweds that want to try to get some honeymoon paid off, and everybody pitches in, or maybe they can spread it to their friends and family, and the more people join on, obviously. You guys are relying on strangers joining on, so it may not work, but I could totally see this as a way of funding things beyond just obviously music.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, I've never heard of anyone recommending this as a wedding financer or honeymoon financer. But that's interesting. Another one I heard recently that I haven't heard before is car parts, and apparently their community is really unified, and they kind of all are like, oh, if we can get 200 people to bring in this car part from Japan, we pay $50 rather than paying $500 per person.
So this is really interesting to me, actually, because what you're telling me is group buying power, right?
Yeah, group buying power.
So when we were all told about Groupon initially, the big Groupon, we were kind of all sold that it was like, oh, it's group buying power. But I feel like we were kind of bait and switched on that one. I think what you're explaining is actual group buying power, like you're actually getting a discount because you're pre-purchasing like a massive quantity. I think that's a great idea.
Cool. Yeah, that's exactly the assessment I would agree with.
Yeah, so I buy a lot of training materials online. The lyndas.com, the Udemy, and all those. The AppSumos, and I could totally see something like this working where enough people buy, it starts to reduce, and if I'm able to somehow bring my tribe to this offer, maybe I can instead of the $150 or $50, maybe it goes down to $5 or something.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of value in non-tangible goods, such as using a subscription. That's why we started out in the music industry. We wanted digital distribution. It doesn't cost anybody anything. There's no shipping cost. It's just the more people that buy it, the more money and the more distribution you're going to make. You can't really lose money. If you're selling a T-shirt, that's a tangible good. There's a cost involved there. Okay. So that's why we really thought that with this system it'd work really well, especially if you want to do a promotion where it goes down to free.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this. So bottom line here is you guys have decided for yourselves that this is too expensive to continue. You'd rather expend your efforts elsewhere. What was that moment? What happened, man? That you're like, fuck, this is not gonna work. God damn it! Where you guys just fucking realized. I mean, who convinced who? I mean, who basically said, you know what? We got to stop beating this dead horse. We got to raise some more money, or this isn't gonna work. Like, I'm done. Like, what happened?
I feel really bad for that horse. I got to tell you, because we beat that thing for fucking months, man. I mean, it's already dead, so I guess it didn't really matter. But
like, what was that moment? Like, did you just look at your pay? What was it? Like, what happened? What did you?
Was the bank account empty, or
was it your bank account? Was it like
you're getting bills for the hosting that you don't want to pay, or
yeah? What was it, man? That's what I want to know.
For me, it was. I mean, it lingered for quite some time. I knew there was a lot of problems months ago. A lot of people weren't into it. We reached out to 1,700 bands and tried to get personal reaction. We tried to get them to bring them on board realistically, but we'd get their advice on it. What do you think about this? And once it came down to the time that we were ready to launch it, nobody. Oh, someone's probably calling Dan. Oh, well, he'll come back.
Okay.
Once we were ready to launch it, nobody wanted to use it. So, they weren't putting their money where their mouth was. They said it was cool, but then when it came time, they weren't down. So that clearly scared the shit out of us. We're like, oh fuck, this is our nightmare, man. We've been working on this for so long. So I think for me, we kept going because we spent so much freaking time on it.
Right.
So it was such a part of us that we didn't stop.
Yeah.
But I think I was waiting for something to happen, and we were pushing for a lot of things to happen. But I obviously kept pushing. Maybe a big artist will find it and want to try it out, and that could be the big push.
Right.
We shopped it to a ton of people. We were in LA a bunch.
Okay.
We had meetings with a lot of managers and different people that were interested, but in the end of the day, no one wanted to really use it.
Well, why weren't these guys using what was it? Was it just they couldn't fucking figure out the JavaScript embed code? Like, what was it, man? I mean, honestly, is it that they just paid you lip service, like, this is great, but they, in the back of their head, they just didn't want to be honest with you and thought, nobody's gonna fucking use this? Like, what was it? Like, why couldn't you see through their like politeness? Is my question to you.
So kind of like the larger artists that we spoke with, we're into it, but the answer almost from every one of them was, we're going to wait till you get a few smaller artists and kind of see how it goes, and, get back to us in a few months.
Right, get back to us,
have some traction or something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, though, they were usually the ones who asked more questions and were more, seemed more into it. Some of the smaller artists who were into it were just kind of like, yeah, okay, cool. But then when it came down to it, they would say, oh, actually, we don't have a release coming out like anytime soon, so, we can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or,
I mean, this is the whole thing that the MVP, those guys talk about. It's just like, like how, the disaster of like people giving you lip service to where they actually put their money where their mouth is. Or trying to figure out a way to get these guys to pay, or trying to get them to at least install it, or that's always the hardest thing, especially when you're building the software. You don't want to wait 6 months to a year, and you're kind of stuck here now.
Right. I mean, for me, it's all about asking the right questions.
Okay.
It's not always about asking, do you think this product's cool, or you see value in this? It's asking, can I have your billing information?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Or,
figuring out
can
what
I
it will
have
take
your
for them to
billing
give that to you.
information? Will you click on this PayPal button? Yeah.
So this takes me back to actually where we kind of started. You were saying, you had an advisor who was giving you what seemed like sound advice, but he wasn't, breaking out the checkbook to pay you for the product every month. So maybe he wasn't the end user, someone who's actually writing a check to use it. So yeah, ultimately getting those people advice is the best thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you gotta talk to the customers.
Yeah.
And so what other kind of advice would you guys give? If you could, talk to yourself before you would kick this off, or for someone else, if you're going to do it again, what advice would you give them in like the business development or the product development or the back end development?
Dan,
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the biggest one, we've already kind of hit on it, touched on it. Was talk to your customers, and then talk to your customers a little bit more.
But actually, that's not correct, Dan. You guys did talk to 1,700 customers.
We did, but see, we talked to the customers after we built the product. So to clarify, talk to your customers, then consider building a product, then talk to your customers some more, then start building a product after you already have customers.
The problem though with talking to customers is it requires you to get away from your computer, and that's kind of scary for some of us.
I agree.
You're like, shit, I gotta ask this guy to pay for something. It's scary. I gotta cold call this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You just convince him to come on a Google Hangout. You never have to leave your computer.
That's right.
My advice would be 4 words. Get feedback early, always. For me, I'm actually about to put another post out on my blog just solely about this. Okay. And it really was a tipping point for me, and it didn't happen until about maybe 9, 10, 11 months into the process that I started to actually reflect on feedback. I was really, you know, it was also my first project. Same with Dan. It was our first project. You know, I've never been involved in such a big project.
Right.
So the work that we put in, I was really attached to.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I built something that took me a month, you know, a feature that took me a month, or, you know, a design that I was really into that took me a month, and, you know, somebody didn't like it, fuck you, we're using it. It took me a month.
Right.
So for me, it was just getting that feedback from your target audience and really listening to it. And if you can get, you know, a good group of them to tell you the same thing, and if you're ignoring it, then you're an idiot. And that's exactly what I was doing.
Okay.
And you know, it wasn't until a couple months ago that I really reflected on my problem there. And
so give us an example here. Give us an example of what feedback did you hear a few times that you just like, didn't really.
Yeah. And let me also ask you too, as a product manager, I love this kind of stuff. I'd love to know what channels you're using to get this feedback. Do you have like one-on-one communication with these people, email, Skype, just whatever it is digitally, or do you use something special like you know, a feedback tab on the website or other things like that?
Well, initially we never really got to the point where we took a lot of feedback from the public. It was mostly internal or, you know, real alpha beta style. So it was basically people that we knew from the music industry. We knew a lot of musicians. My background is in like endorsements with artists and stuff. So I got to know a lot of bands, and those were pretty much our contacts, and those are the people we listened to, them, and we have friends that are, you know, photographers, and they have design.
So you're talking word of mouth.
Total word of mouth, complete direct line of contact.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, we send out emails to our friends. I mean, I think when Jordan's talking about feedback, I think what he was talking about specifically was kind of like, you're talking about like feedback on the product itself kind of thing, like design and functionality and stuff. And yeah, I mean, for that, we just send it out to friends and people to try it out. And then, you know, some people who were potentially our customers, you know, people we knew in the industry and stuff.
All right, so I do want to mention that, you know, Jeff and I both checked out the site today. The site's still up. The domain's still there. You know, so I mean, is there any way to salvage this thing? Can you guys put like a big little pop-up or a notice there saying, you know, we didn't make it, but hey, we got the software. Here's what it does. You know, once you guys approach us for doing a joint venture, or you guys want to buy it outright, maybe license it, is that even a possibility? Do you think sending out a mass email to all these bands or these managers, you think somebody might bite, or what can we do here? Is this really just dead?
It's for sale. You want to buy it? $100.
It's a good name.
It is a great name. Yeah.
We'll sell you the name for $50.
I love it. That's great. That's great. No, I'm serious, man. So, I mean, you guys have a list, right? I mean, I'm assuming you guys have a list, man. Maybe, who knows? Throw it out there. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of grabbing at straws here. Maybe it really is difficult to sell this software. It'd be really great if these guys, if it didn't just end up dying, you know. But who knows?
You know, obviously, if it's not being used, it's dead. But it's going to be up for a little while. I mean, I'm going to use it because I'm actually going to try to land another gig at a startup.
Okay.
Not sure where yet. It's probably in San Francisco. Not sure what kind of startup I'm looking for. But I think I'm going to use this as my resume. That's why it's staying up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be like, yeah, check out this website, whatever. But
I've been talking to a lot of people that have been doing a similar thing recently. That's definitely a good strategy.
Yeah. I mean, it can't hurt. Actually, it could. Maybe. Who knows? If you watch the video, maybe it could hurt.
No, I think it's like a badge of honor, man. I'm like, all right, listen,
definitely.
man. I'd spent a year in the trenches, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, come on, Dan. There's got to be something creative you guys can do with this domain.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. Obviously, we kept it up. It still works. You can still use it. It's actually set up. You know, we actually already have. I think we got one person using it or inquiring about using it. Despite that probably drove the traffic to it was about
one person.
But yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's still up. It's functioning. You know, we're gonna leave it up for now.
Yeah, wow. So it's still working, is what you're saying?
It still works.
Okay.
Yeah, it still works as far as we know. And if people have questions about it or send us emails, we respond.
Well, how about like open sourcing it? Is it built on Rails? Like, what are you guys using in the back end? Just really briefly.
It's all PHP in the back end.
Okay.
The problem is, actually I haven't looked into it too much, but a lot of people asked if we can open source it.
Right.
We have a lot of passwords in the code for Amazon because it's a payment. There's all integrated.
Oh, I see.
So,
okay.
I'm not that experienced of a developer, so I don't know. What do you do? How do you block out the password because it's pretty customized?
You'd have to create like a config file where you store all of the secret stuff, and then you create variables for it in the code, and it's a whole a lot of work just copying and pasting a bunch of stuff. But I really love the video that you guys have on the homepage still. Do you guys have any stories or lessons learned from that, or anything you'd like to tell other startups about? Video commercials on the homepage and stuff are kind of a big thing. I think you guys did a pretty decent job of yours. What do you have to teach us about that?
Jordan, you want to take that first?
All right. As far as making the video, super fun. I recommend a lot of booze. I recommend having a party and just telling all your friends, hey, come over at noon.
Right.
We have like 5 handles and like a bunch of really good beer.
So you're saying all the people in the video are friends of yours?
Yeah.
So you have some good-looking friends.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, that helps, It's definitely...
Hey, we're Zillionaires,
Yeah!
There you go.
That's awesome.
No, our friend Pierce, he made the video. He's a photographer, and he worked with us a couple times before on a few different projects. He has a great camera. He has great visual taste. So he did the actual video. Me and Dan put together the script. We got one of my really hot friends, Emery, to be the hot chick. So that was cool. Yeah.
That helps.
So it looks like a resume builder for all of you guys, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But as far as the content, Dan, do you want to talk about the content or problems?
Yeah. I mean, for sure in the future, I think it's always good to kind of weigh what's the word? Anyways, basically in our video, we had drug references and then bleeped out like the F word and whatnot. You definitely have to weigh kind of who that's going to appeal to and who that's going to kind of alienate and who's going to be turned off by that. So yeah, I mean, we got some feedback saying that they would never use it because of the video.
Oh,
and then other people loved it.
I loved it.
So.
I loved the 420 references. I thought it wasn't enough. You guys need to throw
exactly.
This is the kind of stuff you love to hear on the
those
show. It's a fine line, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Wait, no, hold on a second. This is a product for bands, man. Come on. You gotta have.
Yeah, well, a lot of bands took it too seriously, and they're like, I think you're stereotyping us all wrong. We're not. We don't actually smoke a bunch of weed and spend our money on Big Macs and stuff.
I was just gonna say rock and roll, right? But not all bands are rock and roll. There's a lot of different types of music, so it's it is a genre.
All right.
Yeah, it's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but definitely find that fine line. But I personally feel I like to cross the line a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's also our company culture. Me and Dan are pretty inappropriate fellas.
Yes.
Amul and I have been talking about this as well. I think it's important to find your voice, and distinguish yourself from the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big part of it. We wanted to put our personality into the company.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to, have this kind of straight-laced, boring video, that you would find on, some, corporate website. So.
Yeah. Let me just give you a quick reference about that. So our tagline used to be, "Stop getting hand jobs from those other music marketing tools. Nice. Get ahead with Zillionears."
Very, very nice. Very nice.
Very creative pun.
That's great.
So our advisor advised us to remove that immediately.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think that was actually ever on the site, but
yeah. So this is something Amul might push me. Do you hide this on your Twitter account somewhere deep in a tweet early ago,
it's on an Easter egg hidden on the site.
All right, cool.
That's not true.
Yeah, well, I personally, I'm a big believer in controversy. So, you know, raise it up, man. Raise it up. Get that traffic, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So clearly you guys have had enough. So both of you guys are looking for jobs at other startups. What's the space that's exciting both of you guys right now in the startup world?
Personally, for me, I mean, I've been looking around at a lot of companies. There's a few companies that I personally feel I would benefit from that they don't work on one project specifically, but they take in, they get client after client, and you basically just build an app or a website or, a web app from start to finish, and then you go to the next one. That I like the idea of that. I think it'd give me a lot of good experience. But I also I like e-commerce sites. I really like Fab and the Fancy and those sites. And there's a couple of them that are one that I'm looking at in particular that does socially responsible e-commerce.
Okay.
It's called Impactful.
Gotcha.
And I talked to them yesterday, and they seem pretty cool. Thinking I'll probably go check them out. And there's a few other ones, but I like the companies that are already making money.
Making money. They're making money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha. All right, so let me ask you this: Are you a big fan of like working at home in your underwear, that kind of thing, or do you want to like go into a building with a bunch of other people? Like, what's your feeling on that?
I want to go into a building in my underwear.
All right. Nice. So you want people around, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Definitely.
All right. So Dan, what's your answer to these questions?
Yeah. So I'm kind of interested, intrigued by kind of more enterprise-facing companies.
Okay.
Just because I kind of want to explore, solving problems for customers who actually have money to pay you for those solutions.
Right.
So I'm kind of interested in some of those kind of various. Obviously, that's a broad category. Kind of various companies that fit into that.
Okay.
And then in terms of working in underwear in the office, I like working around people.
Okay.
As much as it's been this past year working basically solo at my house or at coffee shops, I want to work around people more.
Gotcha. So you've went through that phase, and now you're ready to go back to humans again.
Yeah. Humans are nice.
Humans are nice sometimes. All right, that's cool. That's great. Well, if people want to get a hold of you guys, what's a good way of getting a hold of you?
You can hit me up on Twitter at Nemrow, Nemrow, or you can email me nemrowj@gmail.com.
Okay.
I've been doing a bunch of hangouts with a bunch of different startups and people asking for different advice or just kind of want to chat with me.
Right.
I love it, man. So keep at me, get going. I love it.
Yeah, that post really struck me, man. So keep writing the no bullshit post, please.
Yeah.
Keep it real, my friend. Keep it real, goddammit.
Yeah, the Smoking Hot Coffee community definitely appreciates it, and hopefully we'll have you back on the show sometime, both of you guys maybe, and just chat more about startup stuff. Plus if there's any other startups out there you guys think that we should cover, we would love to get in touch with those guys as well.
Cool, man. Yeah, we're part of a cool community in San Francisco of startups.
Okay.
So we'll shoot you an email and give you some leads.
Cool. Yeah. So Amul is in LA and I'm down here in San Diego.
Okay.
We're definitely bringing the startup community to the hangout. So anytime you guys want to chat online, we're here.
Yeah. And so Dan, if we want to get a hold of you, how do we do that?
Yeah, you can find me at Polaske, DPOLASKE.
Okay.
On Twitter, and definitely hit me up. And as Jordan said, we'll be doing some hangouts over the next couple weeks.
Okay.
With a lot of people, and yeah.
All right, great. All right, well, thanks again, guys, and we'll definitely be in touch.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys.
See you guys.
See you guys online.
See ya.
See ya.